Atos CEO Real Talk podcast. Vandaag heb ik in de uitzending Steve Haskew. Steve, hi, how are you? Good day.
Good day, Hans. Very good. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, and I'm glad that you could make it. Steve, we got connected on a topic that's super front of mind, certainly at Atos. And I wanted to talk to you about circular computing. It is something that I want to share with our listeners, and that's why we're talking today, Steve. Can you tell us a little bit about what circular computing is?
Of course, thank you. So firstly, circular computing to Atos is a strategic partner. We're a remanufacturer of laptop technology. That gives the client, the large user of technology, the opportunity to decarbonize their digital workplace. That's what we do as our core offering. And of course, everybody's been using Second Life devices a lot personally from the refurbished market, but ultimately large users of technology, the likes of the clients that Atos service, need an ability to do that without compromise, to make a buying decision where they're not compromised in use or operation. And that can only be done from a facility that has an ability to do that at scale, which is something unique to our organization.
Right, so you run a company that's also called Circular Computing. And if I understand you correctly, circular computing is... You could almost compare it to if I, as a consumer, want to buy another iPhone but don't want to lay down the full amount that Apple asks, I could buy something known as a refurbished iPhone. Typically comes with warranty as well. I think what you're saying is, if I understand you correctly, Steve, you're doing that for the compute market as well, for computers that are being used in a professional environment.
Correct. So in large central government and large industry accounts. So we have a very focused view as to who our customer isn't and who our customer is, and we leave everybody else to service the B2C market. We're very much focused on large enterprise and public sector.
Why would companies want to buy refurbished as opposed to new? What are the typical considerations that companies have? Because this is a big shift in the market, if I understand you correctly.
Of course, so I think to understand the landscape, where the landscape is today, the metronome of change happens roughly every 4 years with laptop technology. Right. And that has been set for the last 25 years, and hasn't really changed. And the manufacturers will put a warranty around that, and the treasury function within the company will put a budget around that. And you go spend €1,000, come back in 4 years and get another €1,000 and buy a new device. That's how the industry is kind of set almost. Yet what happened in around about the mid 2015 sort of period is the hardware didn't need to be any faster, because the emphasis was on the software to be more efficient. And there was a shift in the industry, but nobody changed their buying behavior, which is when circular computing was formed. The key things that are of interest to the stakeholders within large enterprise are the decarbonising the digital workplace happens by not buying brand new devices. 85 to 90% of the carbon of a device is in the production phase. So if they stop the production phase by using a remanufactured or refurbished device, then they can save 1/3 of a ton of carbon, which is considerable. And then there's things like the resource preservation. So to build out the green agenda, you need the same components of a laptop as you do in an EV or a wind turbine. They require copper and all of the precious metals that are contained within a laptop. So to just dispose of laptop technology carelessly end of life and not consider reuse actually is the wrong way to think. And then of course you've got the saving potential from a finance point of view of typically 30 to 40% against the cost of a new technology. And if you combine all of those things, that creates a super value.
Very good. So it is, how does this work then for me? when I look at this from a management accounting point of view, if I was to buy a new computer, I own a let's just start small. I own a small business, 10 computers. I normally put a depreciation on the balance sheet. How does that work for a refurbished laptop? Do you know? Is that something that your clients deal with?
It'll be the same. So they'll procure it in the same way. Working with Atos, we're looking at things like as a service. So product as a service, which is a different offering, and the accountability from a management services perspective is different. But ultimately, the customer can consider our devices the same as they would that of a new device. It might be that though, a new device is €1,000. Our device is €500. So they actually get a much bigger bang for their buck by considering an alternative to.
But this isn't a cost game, or not just a cost game, right? Because this is also want to be sustainable. It is like you just said. I think was it 85% of the carbon exposure from a laptop comes from its production. Correct.
Yeah.
So how does the market look at this in your view? Is it cost versus sustainability? Is it primarily sustainability? Is it a bit of a mix of both?
No, I think the cost and sustainability benefits can't be argued against, Hans. So they're the easy wins. The more challenging wins are the IT technicians. If their phone rings in the day, they're having a bad day. If you like that, so they see doing anything different to what they currently do as a risk, and so we have to work with many stakeholders within the organisation to make sure that everybody is comfortable moving away from what they're used to a different sort of solution where the benefits financially and from a sustainability perspective are home runs. They're a slam dunk for the.
And I also think, I guess, when I think of it, right, corporates used to buy a new PCs every 3 to 4 years.
3 to 4 years, yeah.
Now, back in the 90s, zeros, possibly early 10s. So 10, 20 years ago, computers had to be real workhorses, if you know what I mean, in order to run the software that was being put on there, right? In a classic client-server model, lots of compute power was required. Today, with the obviously with the advent of things like public cloud and LLMs that run somewhere else on big GPU farms, that compute power requirement, I guess, is sort of stable, and that helps your business in terms of circular computing.
Yeah, completely. It helps the customer with an alternative offering. So there are clients out there that need absolute power. They're deep data guys or kind of business architects. We can't service them because we're a kind of an older technology. But for the majority of people like you and me who are just doing our white collar work and our day job, we need to be able to communicate. We need to be able to send emails and Teams calls and so forth, and do work like we're doing today on podcasts. An older device has the ability to do that. And I kind of use an analogy, Hans, of a Ferrari in your high street has no value. A Ferrari on the autobahn has value, in the same way that a Mini in the high street has more value than the Ferrari. So it depends on the user case, and what we're seeing is tools being made available to which Atos use with NextSync, providing a digital experience to the customer, saying you don't need this power, whether it's new or not new. You don't need this power. You're overspending on technology that you're not using.
And now, I don't want to turn this into a big commercial for Atos or for yourselves, right? We're just exploring the context of circular computing, which I find hugely interesting. But is there something you can share and maybe you can't. I'm just thinking of this. Where, with what Atos, can you share which Atos client, for example, use circular computing?
We have I can't talk about the commercials, but it's in the public sector. It's
in the UK,
communicated by
sure.
In the UK. We have won a very large contract with a substantial client called DEFRA, which is our Department of Environment here in the UK. Atos are the solutions provider, so Atos are our client, and DEFRA is the client of Atos, and there's a much bigger service wrapper around the client than just the end user.
No, of course, but and that's why I wanted to have you on the show today, Steve, because and Atos isn't the only one. This isn't, again, this is not a commercial, but there is obviously a public view of companies such as ours, Atos, and big hyperscalers. We consume a lot of power. Right, and so the I guess the social responsibility that I feel as a CEO of Atos in the Netherlands is to show that yes, whilst we may be using power, and it's all green power, by the way, in order to run our data centers, we do offer our clients things that could reduce the carbon footprint by 85% if they're using one of our circular offerings.
And absolutely right, you should be doing that. And if they explore with you and it isn't for them, then they've done the right thing.
Exploring it, right? That's exactly as you say. So listen, Steve, if I may, just shift this slightly, right? Can you make it more tangible for me? So the process of a remanufactured or refurbished laptop, how does that work, or how does that differ from simply refurbishing and taking a cleaning cloth over it?
Okay, so the refurbished marketplace, we call it the secondary market, has been around for 25 years.
Oh, really?
And yeah. So every time a refresh happened in the early, as you said, in the 1990s, early 2000s, the aftermarket. So when product rolls out of a large organization, it goes into the secondary market. You can go onto Amazon or eBay and type in refurbished laptop, and you'll be offered a load of different places to go to. And that could be Hans and Steve selling their own personal laptop on eBay. And what happens in that environment is if you unbox that is you've got a massive buy side risk, because you're reliant on the supplier telling you it's got a bit of a scratch here, we've cleaned it, we haven't taken the keyboard off, but it's good enough, and so you're reliant on their description of the asset quality, which is fine for a certain marketplace. It's fine for a certain customer. That is not our customer. So our customers need a product, whether it's 34 or 34,000, that is identical from the first to the last machine. There has to be no blemishes. There has to be absolutely different. So the process for remanufacturing is where the product is completely disassembled, goes through a process that is certified by the British standards, and what happens is all of the component technology will be fired off to the various testing bays. Then they'll be repaired, remanufactured. They'll come back together as a kit form, and then we build from the kit form back into a finished product. It gets retested, loaded with Windows 11 now, and then gets given the kite mark, and then gets put back into the market. So it goes through, every laptop goes through a big 5-hour industrial process, and we do that at scale. So in our ecosystem, we've got some 60,000 laptops at any one time going through the system. So you need to have a really kind of tight process to make that.
How does
happen.
that? Tell me about that though, because I guess, Steve, there would be companies that circular computing goes and buy depreciated computers from, right, as your input, if you like. What sort of guarantee do they have, for example, that the data that sits on those computers is going to be erased? How does that work? I mean, I can imagine that there's a sort of fear, maybe, and it's probably unjust. What happens to the data, credentials, user? You can read about it in every newspaper, I guess, every day. So how do you address that?
So the IT asset disposal market, the ITAD market, is really mature. Again, it's 25 years old. So organizations rolling end user compute in will have a function of taking care of the laptops coming out. It's actually finely tuned rhythm. And one of the key concerns for rolling product out of an organization is what happens to my data. And there's a process involved in the IT asset disposal, which we are not an ITAD, but our supply, our core, comes from the ITAD market.
Of course, yes. So where your marketplace, if you like, already have a contract in place with companies that professionally wipe computers free of.
Correct.
I see, of course. No, that makes sense. So listen, Steve, if I may, right? We're 15 minutes in, and sure. I feel this is about the right time to drop the number one buzzword bingo card acronym that is spoken about in every podcast, in every meeting, in every bit of anything. It's even hit the newspapers. I think you know where I'm going with this. AI. We need to talk about AI. I need to figure out how we can bring AI into circular computing, don't we?
Okay.
So how does it? Well, let me just put it on the table. Do these laptops that are refurbished and maybe a few years in, are they going to be any barrier for companies to use AI or AI demands, do you think?
No.
I like that. Okay, on to the next one.
No.
That's good.
The confidence.
Good.
It's an interesting topic because on the one hand, what you've got is we're going through a digital industrial revolution.
Of course,
and it's happening right in front of us, and it's really exciting. And AI is the big topic, obviously. And people are trying to figure out where they fit in the landscape of AI. But what we do know is as we cross this bridge, there's going to be a disruption from a sustainability perspective. It is known that the energy requirements of AI and the water requirements of AI are kind of disruptive. It's kind of negative to the environment until they can figure out the engineering and architecture, and there's water cooling on board, and the renewable energy is going to power, but then it has complications. So off-prem, on-prem, and all of that kind of thing is still really in the here and now as I see it. So I don't think the AI strategies of large organizations will find their place for at least a few years in any event. And then what we don't know is what technology will happen from a software perspective between where we are today and there. And so there might be AI tools that don't require as much power as we might think. Sure. The manufacturers are coming in with end user compute with AI on board, and I think they've come in too early with that technology because clients will be buying that technology in and won't be able to deploy that technology because their strategy hasn't yet been crystallized.
Okay, understood. And so, in your view, buyers of refurbished, refactored, remanufactured laptops shouldn't fear barriers to use any modern software, be it AI, or anything, on the computers that are remanufactured. Is there, if I may ask, and I don't want to spoil the day because I think this is fantastic, but I'm sure there are also applications where you would not advise for clients to go into a remanufactured laptop or computer market, or is that not easy to say?
No, 100% I would say that. We can't be the solution for every customer, but equally, we need to coexist in the same way that, say, renewable energy and fossil fuel energy, they coexist. Electric vehicles and diesel cars, they coexist. The systems need to coexist until such time as if there's compromise for the organization or the user, Hans, then we are not there.
No, I get it. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So listen, Steve, I've read just real quick whilst we were recording this on your website. I think you've got operations out of the Middle East.
We do.
What's happening in Middle East?
So when we procure our core, it comes from all
Sure.
over the world. So from APAC, North America, South America, obviously Europe, and the Middle East is a great starting point
Because
for that.
it's centrally located, good hub.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, correct. So it is that the misconception that while we're sending our products to the Middle East for production or reproduction is bad for the environment is sort of a bit of there's a myth buster involved in that, because we have that covered.
So explain that to me. So
What I mean by that is so we within our remanufactured laptops, we reduce the carbon in the production phase by 94%. Okay. Of the 6% that's left, I can say, because we have a carbon audit every year, of the 6% that's left, 75% of that value is in our logistics, which means it's about, what's that, 4%, 4%. So if we bought our factory onshore, say to Netherlands, then there would be just a 4% additional reduction to the 94%.
And it's only to clients in Europe, right? Because if you would have clients in Asia Pac, you would still have to ship. Yeah, okay.
Correct.
I get it.
So we are very open, and we've been speaking to the EU and other governments. We're very open to having a factory on the ground here in Europe to service our European customers. But we need them to not expect us to take all of the risk. Setting up a factory is a very expensive habit. So we don't want to just put a factory on the ground in the EU where there's no demand. So our current challenge is raising the demand to a level where we can make that investment, and then that then involves green skilling local people, and involves employment locally, which is better for everybody ultimately,
for sure,
who are in the region. But again, it doesn't satisfy our Middle East and APAC clients. So it's balancing it all off and making sure that we're transparent with how we describe our service.
Well, listen, I'm really excited, I guess, and also, to be honest, I guess surprised that circular computing is this widely used. You spoke about the DEFRA contract with Atos. I didn't know that, and therefore alone, I thank you, Steve, for briefing us, I guess, and our listeners on the upside of circular computing. Is there anything, Steve, before we head towards, I guess, the closure of today's podcast, that we should have spoken about, but I forgot to ask? Anything you'd like to say at all?
I think it's really important that organisations like Atos, yourself, Hans, as a CEO of the Netherlands, are taking the opportunity to help your customers educate, transfer some knowledge, allowing them to kind of pick away at the myths. I don't have any further questions for you, Hans.
You can ask
podcast,
anything.
I just think it is super important. I think there probably is one question that I do have, and that is from your point of view. Are you hearing AI more than you are sustainability this year? Let's say last year was a really hot topic, and has sustainability gone off the boil?
No, definitely not. In fact, I was having this conversation with a few colleagues at Atos. And also in the market, right? We all know that the big wave of AI still needs to happen. So from an MSP, a managed service provider point of view, the big shift for clients towards AI, in my view, still needs to happen. So we will get to see and hear more of AI transformation than I think we do today. But what's been very steady is the concerns around sustainability when it comes to things like AI. So I feel, as a CEO of Atos, a clear responsibility to do our piece, and help our clients, and certainly do our piece and help our clients to say where can we be carbon neutral or be significantly closer to carbon neutrality than we do today. And today, you proved, Steve, that with circular computing, you can take 94% out of the carbon footprint by buying a computer off of a remanufactured source, like with Atos, through Atos, or directly with circular computing. And that to me is great.
That's brilliant. I think there's an ability to, as customers venture into AI, and let's say their energy consumption does go up because it's it needs it, then there's a kind of almost an offset effect if they decarbonize the end user estate. So they get the best of both worlds. They can decarbonize and get involved with AI, and it can kind of almost create a net zero carbon effect.
Yeah, no, for sure. Listen, thank you, Steve, for being on the show. To our listeners, thank you. Check in for the next CEO Real Talk, Atos Real Talk. See you next time. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Hans.